Hey, what's going on, everybody? How are y'all doing tonight? Um, we have got some cool stuff to do tonight, so pretty excited about that. My name is Wade Prunty, and I do a little astrophotography and try to help out other people that are maybe new to the hobby or just trying to learn new techniques and stuff. We like to talk about that, talk about equipment, just anything like that. It's all astrophotography here, and if you've got questions or anything like that, feel free to join us in the chat, and we'll try to answer any of your questions, help you out in any way that we can. Tonight, it's pretty cool because we have a world-renowned astrophotographer here that is not for real. You might laugh when I say that, but he's been published in his photos in magazines. I'm totally jealous of all that, and he's like one of the best wide field imagers out there, and he does a really good job with all that. And so he has agreed to come on and hang out with us and show us a little bit about Astro Pixel Processor. So I'm a PixInsight guy, and I use it to do probably 90% of my images. I stack through it, do all of my calibration stuff and stack everything in there, and I mean just do and pretty much get everything ready. And then I'll move around. I'll use something like Adobe Camera Raw or something like that. But I do most of my big work, StarNet 2 now in PixInsight. But he has been telling me that stacking and things like that are just awesome in Astro Pixel Processor, and also the background removal. So that is supposed to be really good in there. So he's gonna go over those with us tonight. So let me see if bring him over. We're gonna have his desktop up. So hey Jeff, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Awesome. I can definitely hear you. Everybody on the stream, if you can hear Jeff, let us know. If you can't hear him, let us know. But I believe everything's coming through. Voice beater banana is can be
Awesome.
a little, yeah, it can be awesome sometimes. It can be awesome, but then it can wear you out sometimes. So I think everything's going good tonight with it, though.
Yeah, Astro Beard and Astro Zach TX says sounds good, and yep.
Awesome. Okay, so
Cool.
we're gonna let's see. Whoa, you're looking at my desktop, aren't you? And so we've got like
Yeah,
this 3D effect going on.
it's very meta.
Yeah, right. Here you go. Let's see. Here we go. We are. So there's my desktop, and we want to move to yours. So let me do that right now. Nope. How about now? There we go. Are you still there? Okay.
Yep.
Let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna let you run with it, and
Sweet.
yeah, this is
All
your
right.
deal.
Cool. So first of all, I'm no expert on this software. I've been using it for about a year. And I use it for one-shot color cameras. So the mono workflow is a little different. I can show a little bit of how that works, though. So Astro Pixel Processor, I'll start from scratch, actually. Just open up a fresh window. When you first open it, it looks like this. It's got this bar over here where it will show you like progress as things are going on. It's not really necessary, though. It usually just gets in the way. Anyway, so it asks you for like a working directory. So I'm going to pick this directory that I've been working in, the Christmas tree cluster cone nebula area with the TPO 180. And so I'll just choose that as my kind of home directory. And then, like I was saying, I'm going to just scoot that over because it doesn't really do any good. You'll also notice that Astro Pixel Processor brings up a little console window, so you can really look through at a really granular level to see the progress and what's going on. But I usually just keep that minimized. So we'll just go over like the interface here. The first thing you'll want to do is to look at the configuration here and make sure you're using as much RAM as you want to be using. I've got 32 gigs in here, and so it'll let you choose up to like 1 gigabyte below what you have. So I just go with 31. I'm usually not doing a ton of other stuff on my computer when I'm doing this, so I just let it eat up all the RAM it can. And then you can have tooltips enabled, which I highly recommend. That's default on, so no big deal there. And then sound and console output is all fine.
So how did you get to that?
The config button right up here.
Okay, CFG.
You see that? Yeah. So then here it's going to ask you how many threads you want to use out of your system, and it usually defaults to like 1 below your max, but I just let it go max because it's not that big of a deal. I don't ever notice my computer screeching to a halt. I can even still like browse the web and do whatever I want to do while it's processing.
Okay.
So then these are like little progress bars depending on what stage you're in Astro Pixel Processor, but honestly, I never even look at them. So moving on to this little section right here, these are all of the steps that you would go through as you progress your way through the software. So starting here is like, step 0 through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or to 6, and then there's a tool section. So you would start on 0. You tell it your Bayer matrix pattern. I just always leave it at supported. It'll usually just go to the default of whatever the camera is. Algorithm is a little bit of a trickier part. So the only ones I really look at here are the adaptive airy disk algorithm, which is supposed to be a really, really good algorithm for stacking one-shot color. It's for various reasons supposed to be better than other algorithms. I don't exactly know why, but cool thing about Astro Pixel Processor is those tooltips I was mentioning. So you can just hover over and it will tell you all the different everything about what you're looking at. So I choose adaptive airy disk if I'm just going straight one-shot color. Super Pixel is similar to others. I'm not going to go through all of this, but like Super Pixel basically bends your image down 2 by 2, I believe. So it gives you stronger signal, less guessing on the signal with a color camera. With the Bayer matrix, but you're going to get 1/4 of the resolution out of your image. These like HA, H beta, sulfur 2, these are for mono, I believe, different algorithms for different filters that you're using. And then this is the part that gets really interesting, and what I think brings a lot of people to Astro Pixel Processor is their processing of like the multi narrowband filters for one-shot color cameras. So like if I'm really going to try to process something as like HA, like HA03 or something, just 2-channel bicolor, then I'll always do this as like my base layer, HA03 color. So it's basically going to handle the hydrogen and oxygen differently than it normally would in some fashion that's supposed to be better than normal, and give you a color picture out of that. Then you can also do the same thing and just give you mono in case you want like a super strong luminance layer. And then these are the really interesting ones, the HA03 extract HA or extract O3. So that does what you would expect. It basically spits out a mono file that gives you just the HA from your multi-narrowband filter or just the O3. So what I end up usually doing, this is probably going a little too far, but I usually do the HA03 color to get kind of my base image, and then I'll do an extract O3 also, and then bring that in Photoshop as my O3 layer for blue. But that's just a brief rundown of the different algorithms.
Okay.
You got if you're having trouble with your Bayer matrix interpolation, then you would force Bayer matrix. I never have to do that. I never have to deal with camera white balance. I think this is probably, yeah, if you're using like a DSLR, then you look into that, I believe. And then you can change the balance of your red, green, blue if you want to, but I would never do that up front. We should always do that later.
Right.
Okay. So
what kind of image are you gonna? I'm guessing you're gonna actually go through an image.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I was gonna walk through this first, then here we'll load up the files, and then we'll get there.
Okay.
Before I do that, I want to move over here to this side of the screen. This is kind of confusing, and there's really not a lot that you need to do over here if you're just using Astro Pixel Processor for calibration, registration, and integration, and light pollution removal, and channel combination, and that kind of stuff. These are like your stretching levels and highlights and saturation, contrast, sharpness. I don't do any of this stuff in Astro Pixel Processor because the tools that we have in PixInsight and Photoshop are so good at this anyway. So I just don't usually touch this at all. There are some exceptions, and I'll get to those in just a second. One of them actually would be the neutralized background, and I'll show you why that's important in just a second, but that's this little checkbox right there. Okay, so if you were to just be working on a file that was already processed, which you will rarely do in here, you would load it up by clicking on the other or processed image, and then you could load up a file and be good to go. But we're not going to do that. But if you needed to do that for some reason, that's where it is.
Okay.
Okay. So cool part about this is the way it handles multiple filters and multiple sessions. So if you had multiple filters that you use, say, SHO, or if you had multiple sessions, like you did one night session in a Bortle 8 zone with whatever, let's say you have the same filter all the time. Right. But say you did one night in a Bortle 8 and one night in Bortle 3, then you might want to break those out so they're processed separately in different ways.
Okay.
Or say you had to use different flats for half of your images, then you might want to do 2 sessions.
Or like maybe you did a 2020 and then a 2021 and then a 2022.
Totally.
Yep.
And you might have different darks.
Right.
Because you might have updated your dark library by then. So you want to use your old darks for your old session and your new darks for your new one. That's a perfect example.
Okay.
So to load up the lights, like light frames, you click on it. And then I'm just going to start with night 3 here. My night 1, you can see I've imaged this a lot of nights, but my first night's worth of imaging, I didn't have my framing right and ended up rotating the camera a ton. Now when I do my final stack on this, I still included that and it worked just fine. But for the sake of this, I'm not going to load those up. So we'll load up this night 3 worth of lights. You can see here, because I have multi-channel and multi-filter processing checked, and because I have multi-session processing checked, it's going to ask me a couple of questions once I add them. So this was going to say, which filter do you want to assign this to? Because multi-filter processing. So you could tell it which filter this was. Well, let's just say this was we're going to say RGB because that's what it is. Or you can do a custom name if you wanted to. And then it's going to ask you which session this was because you said multiple sessions. So you could say, like in your example, Wade, you could say these are my 2021 images, or these are my 2022 images. And then you hit OK. And the next time that you added more images, that 2021 or 2022 would show up here as a checkbox that you could just check for that session. So the way that we do it with one-shot color, and for most of my stuff, I don't use any of those. So when I add my light frames, I just add them, and it doesn't ask me what filter or what session it was. Is that all clear so far on the light frames?
Yeah, I think so. So like I'm doing this with you as we go. And so like I've got I'm using this target that I took. I use the Radian Triad Ultra.
Mm-hmm.
So on that filter, so and it was just one night there, so I don't have multiple nights or anything. But I would, so what you're saying is that would I choose RGB on that for that image?
If it's literally just one session, so I would uncheck both of those.
So would you have anything checked?
Nope.
For channel?
The auto detect masters and dark or masters and integrations. I mean, I leave it checked, but I still always load my own darks and flats, and you can also load a master flat or a master dark or whatever you want to there. So this is basically for probably the auto detect masters and integrations. I think it's probably for some really weird like one-off cases.
Okay.
But I don't really know.
Okay.
But yeah, if I just had one session, I wouldn't choose I would uncheck multi-channel filter processing, and I would uncheck multi-session processing.
Okay.
And then just load your lights in there. And it won't let you load, like I'm loading these the second time. You can see on my lights, it says there are 40 loaded. If I load the same ones a second time, it knows and it doesn't add them again.
Okay.
So you would do the same thing for like your flats, for example. And I've got my flats here, and there's a master flat in here, but I'm going to ignore that. So I would load those in. So you can see now I've got 40 lights, 50 flats. Darks, same thing. Just click on the darks, load up your darks, select them all. And then dark flats, same thing. I think mine are actually called bias, but they are dark flats. So you can see here, oh, hey, Andy.
What's
Andy's
up?
here. So you can see here, I've got all my lights, flats, darks, flats loaded. If we had masters, we could load those instead of loading all of these. But for the sake of this, I'm not going to do it. Now, you see here sorting best to worst, and you can sort by time shot, star density, sky background, signal noise ratio, noise, star shape, or quality, or registration RMS. So quality is what most people use, I believe. It's what I use all the time. It just basically factors in kind of everything and gives it a weight based on the noise level and the background and the star shape and all of it kind of combined. I don't know how it weighs them, but I know that it does them, and it seems to be fine for me. The weird part about this here, you notice as you load in your lights and flats and darks, they show up down here in the list of files. And you can see they're all named, like these are all lights, and then there's the flats, darks, dark flats, and they're even color coded so you know what's going on. But you also notice that it's not showing you like a lot of the information here, like the full with half max, the signal to noise ratio, and star density and number of stars and so on. That's because you haven't done registration yet, so it doesn't know. So right now, if you sort by like signal to noise ratio, you can do best to worst or worst to best. It doesn't do anything because it doesn't know. So really, I don't know why this is located in the load tab, because it doesn't really do much here. But later down the road, you can sort and do stuff. Like after you've gotten through the registration process, you can come back here and sort by like star shape, worst to best. And then you would scroll to the top, and the top ones would be the worst star shapes. So you could load those up, look at them, see if you want to trash them or if you think they're okay to keep. But that's the entire first tab here. And if you did want to trash something here, you just right click on one of the files. You can deselect it so it won't be used in the actual process, but it won't delete it. If you want to delete it from your hard drive, you can do that here. You can just remove it from Astro Pixel Processor from this session. But I'm going to leave it there. You can also see I double clicked on one of the files, so it loaded up here in the preview. This is one of the times that you would use this right-hand column, which is just to do a quick neutralization of the background. So it basically aligns your RGB channels to give you a better view of what you're looking at. And you can mouse wheel to scroll in, scroll out. Excuse me. And you can even mouse around like this. Just clicking your mouse to view around and see what you're looking at. Okay. So that is how you load in all your frames, and how, like, a general rundown of this right panel. It changes as you go through the tabs, but a general rundown, and then a general rundown of how this works down here. This where you load all your files, whatever this is called, this tray. So the next thing you do is to move on to the calibration tab. This tab, I don't touch it, honestly. I just leave it where it is. It's just different ways of integrating your bias frames and dark flats and darks and all of that. And it creates a bad pixel map for you automatically. You don't have to add anything or change anything here. It just does it. The only thing you might want to change is down here towards the bottom, where this section right here. It's not labeled, so I don't know what to call it. But I do create 32-bit masters. I check that just because, the image it spits out as a 32-bit file. So to me, it seems like 32-bit master makes sense. You can separate your darks according to exposure time. If you set this up properly to begin with, that shouldn't matter, because you've done different sessions for different exposure times, and you have your own darks for those. But I guess if you didn't do that, it will kind of match up the exposure times to your darks automatically. Everything else here is default, except I believe adaptive pedestal and reduce amp glow, which it's basically to be used if you do have amp glow, which I don't anyway, on the 2600 MCs the camera used on this.
Right.
But it doesn't hurt anything to check it, so it's checked. I have it. There's another reason I have it checked. I think I just can't remember exactly what it was.
Mine defaulted to check.
Did it? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Now everything else here, I don't touch. You can do like an aligning of the channels, so it will. When it does the registration, it will look at your red, green, and blue channels separately. If you have any chromatic aberration, it will try to align each channel separately. But you have to end up saving those files out separately and reloading them. And I've tried it before and never noticed anything like it's not worth doing. So I just don't even deal with this bottom section here.
Okay.
Now, a quick aside about the whole workflow in all of these tabs. You can do these all at once. Like I could, on the calibration tab, I can go down here and say, or no, it's at the top, I guess. No? Yeah, you can do create masters and set to lights, and that will do your calibration and give you calibrated light frames. But you don't have to do them one at a time. If you were to skip all the way to the last step, integrate, and scroll down to hit integrate, it will start at tab 0 and go all the way to 6 and just go through all the steps on its own. Now you could do that at any step. You could say, I just want to go all the way to normalize, but I'm not ready to integrate. You could just go through all these tabs with all your settings and then go to normalize and hit normalize lights. And it will go all the way to here to tab 5 and stop. And then you can continue on integration.
Okay. So let me go over something that you just said there. So these tabs that we're looking at, they're labeled 0 to 6, and then they have a tools tab. So basically, when you do the integration, it's actually going through each tab and using what you've selected in there, what you have selected.
Exactly right.
Okay. Yeah. So see, I didn't know that. I didn't understand that. Okay. So that's okay. That makes, it's weird. Like to me, just looking at the application, that doesn't make sense to me that it does that, but knowing that it does, that's kind of cool. Okay. So
Yeah, it's not. There's a lot of stuff about this program that is not intuitive, but once it's explained to you, then you're like, okay, I get it. That works.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yes. No, definitely.
Yeah.
It's you're kind of flipping the way you think. So I used to do video editing, and I used some Sony products and some Adobe products back in the day, and then I flipped over to Final Cut Pro, which is an Apple product, and it was like completely different, right? Like when you went in, nothing in there looked the same as, Adobe Premiere or anything like that. So, but once somebody explained to you what it did, it was like, oh, okay, that does make sense. It's just in the opposite place from what I've been doing. So this makes total sense now. That just clicked, and it totally makes sense.
Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to continue on to tab 3. Quick one. Analyze stars. All the really hit to change here, if you want to change anything, is how many stars it's going to analyze when it's doing your star analyzing for the registration and the stacking integration. So the default is 500. I always left it at default and had no problems with it until I did Mosaic, and was having so many issues with it. So I found settings that worked with that Mosaic, and ever since then I've just kept them. I've kept using those same settings because I know that they are, like, if they worked on that crazy 2-pane super wide, it was like a 50 millimeter lens 2-pane Mosaic.
Wow.
Tons of just curvature around the edges of the frame from just like the lens distortion. It was so hard to make it work. So I just basically use those settings. You could leave this on 500 and probably fine, but I bump it up to 1,000 just because.
Okay.
All it's going to do is take a little bit longer, but it's not like an incredible long time. The star analyzing is not very super processor intensive. So then tab number 4, register. You can always go through these and look at the different pattern recognition. You can triangles, quadrilaterals, or pentagons. I think quadrilaterals is I think it's the default, and it's usually fine for just about everything. There's one of the other algorithms that takes less time, but it is more likely to fail. And then one that takes much more time, but is much less likely to fail. Quadrilaterals, I think it's just right in the middle. So I leave that at the default, I believe. The other thing is the scale start and stop. So this is basically just showing you, I'll leave the tooltip up while I'm talking about this, but it's basically saying, as we're looking at these patterns, quadrilaterals in this instance, it's only going to look at a certain size range to find matches for those patterns, right? So if you were to do scale start 1 and scale stop 2, it's not gonna really give you a lot. There's not gonna be a lot of leeway, right? Because they're gonna have to match exactly. So the default is 1 to 5. That will probably work just fine. When I got it to work on my Mosaic, I put the scale stop at 10, which gives it a little bit more leeway, takes a little more processing time, but to me, I would rather wait around and have it done right.
Right.
Flip descriptors in XY. This is another one that you can check if you're having problems with everything stacking. Now, I say that don't get worried, because it's Astro Pixel Processor is phenomenal at star registration and analyzing and integration. I don't know if you remember Stella. Sarah had a shot of the Helix Nebula that she was working on.
Yep.
And she could not get it to stack. She couldn't get the stars to register. She tried everything. PixInsight, Deep Sky Stacker, everything. she gave her data out to a ton of people. Nobody could get it to work. And then I was like, hey, hook me up. So she gave it to me, and I threw it in here at the default settings, and it worked just fine.
Okay.
So don't get scared. But I usually do check this just because it will prevent you from having any issues should there be one. It'll help. The dynamic distortion correction is usually not needed. This is for examples like that mosaic I was talking about, where you have a ton of field curvature around the edges of your frame because you use something like a wide field lens. Then this will basically be able to fix that distortion and still allow you to do a mosaic with images that have crazy lens curvature on the edge of the field of view, and it'll still match them up basically. But I normally don't choose that because it's not needed if you're just doing one field of view. And I usually also uncheck same camera and optics. If you are using the same camera and optics, you can leave this checked, but you'll have a higher likelihood of things failing in the registration and integration process. You probably won't notice a difference either way, but it's like a troubleshooting thing. If it does fail, this is something that you can uncheck and it won't fail, or have a less likelihood of failing. Then you can save a distortion model and load it in, but this is above my pay grade. I don't do any of that. I just let it, if it has to create a distortion model in order to work, then I just let it do that, and I don't worry about saving it or anything. Registration mode, you just say normal or mosaic, or I've never used Comet or 1-star registration, and I've never done no registration, but I guess if you just, I don't know why you would do that really. But the mosaic mode is obviously for mosaics. Right. This one is just a regular, single frame image, so we're just going to do normal. And then I don't ever touch this registration model either. I don't know what it does right now. I've looked through all of these settings and researched them like crazy, and the ones that mattered and that that I needed to deal with, those are the ones that I know. This one, I just don't even remember what it does. I just know I don't touch it. There wasn't a reason to. Okay. And then same down here, projection. And if you wanted to save your registered frames individually, you could do that here. You just set your save directory and save them. I don't do that. One of the things I like about Astro Pixel Processor is like PixInsight. I think it's different now with weighted batch preprocessing, but it used to be you had to create all of your calibrated frames, right? So you had all your calibration frames, and then your light frames, and then you had your your darks applied frames, and then your flats applied. You ended up with tons and tons of files everywhere that you probably deleted most of them once your integration was done anyway. This just uses your scratch disk space, and you don't ever have to deal with those files. So I kind of like that. So I don't ever save my register frames because there's no need that I see. Do you have any questions about this, the register tab?
Not just the register, but all of these tabs that we've been through and that we're going to go through. When you change this, the next time you come in, are those changes going to have been saved in? Or do you have to redo this?
Some of them stay, some of them don't. If I remember correctly, I feel like the calibration stuff, it remembers and it keeps your settings. Okay. Analyze stars, it definitely doesn't keep your settings. Register, it definitely does not keep your settings. I think it's just the calibration tab that keeps your settings, and I could even be wrong about that. Okay. But I'm pretty sure. Actually, it doesn't, because I have lately been doing scale, master dark flat, and scale, master dark, and it did not save those. So.
Well, I'll probably be going back through the VOD after this to notate some of this stuff in case I miss it.
Yeah, totally fine. And you know how to find me too, and everybody else. If there's any questions, just hit me up on Instagram. at Jeffrey Horne or whatever. Okay, cool. So analyze stars we did, register we did. So now we're on to normalize. So to my understanding, normalizing is just basically kind of, it's like if you ever done normalizing audio, it basically is maxing out your signal, right? So if one frame is slightly darker than another one with like less of a peak in it, then it will kind of even out the lightness of your frames. In all fairness, I've always used it. I've never not used it, so I don't know if it's better without it, but it seems like everybody uses it. Nobody has a great explanation of what it actually does. But I don't know. I use it on regular mode. It says to use advanced if you're doing a mosaic. And then the method, I just leave this all at default, basically. And you can read through all the different what these different methods do and what they mean.
Okay. So you want it to neutralize background here? You don't want to do that after?
No. So I uncheck this. If you read this tooltip here, if it pops up, you can do this and it will neutralize the background of each of your light frames individually. But be aware that background neutralization can suppress nebulosity. So always use the calibrate background tool to have the nebulosity fully restored. So I unchecked this because one of the reasons that I love Astro Pixel Processors for the light pollution removal tool, which is in the tools tab here. We'll get to that in a minute. But when you use that tool, it neutralizes the background anyway. So there's no reason to do it here.
Okay.
Especially if it's going to suppress the nebulosity, even though you can bring it back. It's like, I don't know why you would do it. So, and then if you wanted to save your normalized frames out individually, you could do that also. But again, I never have any reason to do that. So the only thing I change on the normalized tab is to disable the background neutralization.
Okay.
So then on to integration. So had we done in the load tab, had we done multi-channel, multi-filter, or multi-session processing, these options here would be different. So you can integrate, like for the multi-filter, you can integrate per channel, you can integrate all of them, or you can integrate all and per channel. So it'll give you multiple output files. But since this is only a single session, then we're only, it doesn't give us the option. And the same here with the sessions. It gives you the option to integrate each session individually or all together or individually and all together. So it would give you multiple files. But here I'm just going to integrate all of them because there's only one session. Okay, so then you can tell it how many of the frames you want to stack, 100% or 99% or however many. It shows you the percentage here and the number that's actually going to be stacked up there. I'm going to actually do a stack of this, I guess. So I'm just going to take this down to like 10 frames to save some time. And I do have my full stack that we'll be looking at for like the light pollution removal tool and that kind of stuff. I'll load that up after we go through these settings. Okay, so then you have the type of integration, which is like the integration method, they call it.
Right.
So automatic is basically just going to do what this tells you to do. It's hard. Sorry, my brain is running circles around itself right now. Let me backtrack for a second. I leave this on automatic. You can do average if you have over 20 or so frames, because then it's you have good outlier rejection at that point. So average is the way to go if you have over 20 frames. If you have fewer than 20 frames, then you go with median. You'll get, I think you don't get any outlier rejection. Like, so, all your planes and stars and all of that will show up, which is not always great. Maximum is basically like if you're trying to do star trails or something like that, and you wanted to keep every imperfection in every single frame and literally integrate every single pixel with no outlier rejection, you would use maximum. So really it comes down to if you have over 20 frames or under 20 frames, and that would be average or median. And if you choose automatic, then if you have over 20 frames, it's going to choose average for you. If you have under 20 frames, it's going to choose median for you. So, excuse me. The one thing that is important here is if you leave it on automatic, you don't get the option to choose your outlier rejection method. So I'm gonna have, in my final stack, I would have a lot more than 20 frames. So I'm gonna put it on average. Another thing I like about this, if you don't use automatic, use average, you get to choose how you want your frames to be weighted. So same back when we were looking at the load tab where you can sort by like exposure or quality or signal to noise or star shape, you can weight by those individual properties if you want, or you can use quality, which is kind of like, using all of the factors together to weight your files. So the better files will mean more than the worst files will. So by choosing average, you get to tweak out all of these things, whereas if you do automatic, you don't. So I like to weight them by quality. And then for rejection, there's all kinds of different rejection methods, and you can read through them. They all have their benefits. I don't think any of them are bad, but I always use the adaptive rejection, which I believe is unique to Astro Pixel Processor. And I'll just read the tooltip here about adaptive rejection. This is a more advanced outlier rejection filter in which sigma, winsorized, and mad rejections are combined to further improve the outlier detection in the pixel stacks. This filter should work as the best filter if you integrate more than 20 frames. So it, I don't know. It just seems to be like the best one. It kind of uses the best, like a little bit of all of it, or, the best of all of it. So I use adaptive rejection. I also, once you choose average here, it gives you the option to choose local normalization rejection, which you can read about this also, but it's basically a much better way of doing the outlier rejection. This bottom paragraph in the tooltip says all I needed to know that I wanted to have that checked. An outlier rejection filter like linear fit, it makes an outlier rejection filter like linear fit clipping obsolete. Correctly solves the root problem of local intensity differences between the lights of the stack to be integrated. The result of enabling local normalization rejection is that you will get a very uniform and robust rejection over the entire field of view, which can easily be verified by studying the outlier rejection maps. So I'd leave that checked. Kappa low and kappa high is going to basically say, it's hard for me to verbalize it, but it's basically saying when we're looking at outliers and like satellites and planes and things that you want to remove, this is how picky you want that to be, basically. So you see here, I always just remember this, the high number and the low number, right? The highest you can go is 8. So that's going to say, that's like the least picky that you could be. Whenever I do outlier rejection, my fear is that I'm going to remove nebulosity, right? Mm-hmm. So I want to be as light with it as I possibly can be, as gentle with it as I can possibly be, still removing all of my satellites and planes. So the default here is 6. I move it up to 8. And you can see here, it even says like, you can safely set the kappa low to a value of 4 to 8. But remember, the lower the kappa value, the more you will remove, including good data. So I keep it at the top end of where I could still be effective with it, basically. And similarly, go ahead.
No, I don't want to get you off track here, but so we're looking at this and we're talking about this, and what's going through my mind is do you, so in PixInsight I blink all my images. Do you do that anymore using this tool?
I do. I'm not like the blink tool, but I do like this. So here's you double click on the frame down here. Here's my frame. I can go through here. You can just use the arrow keys and it'll keep your same location. So you can just sort through,
Okay.
I just look through these and I'll look at like the stars. Usually I'll go through them once and zoomed in like this. And I'll do another time zoomed all the way out so I can see like if there are any clouds that came through or anything weird. You can also, after you've gone through as far as the registration tab, sometimes a good way to do this without manually doing it like I do, I like to have my eyes on every frame I don't know, I just like to.
Right.
But you could go all the way through the registration tab and start registration. It'll register everything. Maybe I should do that real quick. Let's do that because there's a couple other tools I want to show you. But to make it faster, I'm going to use my master darks and master lights. So you just hit clean all and it removes them. And you see they're unchecked down here now. Alternatively, I could select all of these down here, right click and remove them. So they're no longer part of the session. So I'll just put in what was this? Darks? Flats. I'll put in a master flat. I'll put in a master dark. And a master dark flat, which again is under my bias frames. So now we've got those. Then I'll go ahead and do actually, we need to go through the normalize process in order to get, what I'm trying to show you is once you've done this, you can then sort your frames. I'm gonna let this go. It shouldn't take too long. Once this is done, then you can sort through your frames down here and you can sort by star shape and sky background. Oh wait, I got an error. I used the wrong kind of calibration frames. I used the calibration frames that were done for the one-shot cut or the 03 extraction. So this is going to be annoying.
No way to kill it?
August. Did I get it in time? I did. I got it in time. Okay. So let's just not do any calibration frames. It's gonna look awful, but that's okay. It'll be fast. So when I click normalize, you see it's gonna go back to analyze stars because it's already done. There is nothing to calibrate, so it didn't calibrate. It skipped straight to number 3, analyzing stars. And then it's going to register, and then it's going to normalize. So you can see it's, it's going decently quickly. This is my new monster PC though, so it's doing this on my 2014 MacBook Pro took longer for sure.
Right now you're on your. I don't know what you want to call that super computer.
I don't know. I'm not really into anthropomorphizing, so I didn't name it. But
okay. Does APP can it utilize your GPU?
It doesn't use GPU, but they're constantly updating it. It takes a while for their updates to come out. I think it's just one developer that does this. His name is Mabula. So it does take a while, but he's really open about the plan and what he wants to do. Like the next release is going to have basically where you can save your imaging sessions. So once you get all of this set up and you've got like 700 light frames loaded up and all your settings tweak how you want it, you can save that, so you don't have to go back later and redo all of these settings and reload all of your light frames.
Okay.
So basically, he's very open about the development and the plan about what's going to happen with future updates and that kind of stuff. They're also working on switching over to a newer version of Java so that they can do an M1 native app, which I'm also very excited about.
Yes, that'd be awesome.
All right.
So far what I've done is working well on my M1. So
That's good.
yeah.
Okay, so this is done. These are uncalibrated, but they are registered. The stars have been analyzed, they've been registered, and they've been normalized. So you see now we can go back to that load tab. How I said this sorting didn't belong in the load tab because it seems weird to me. But now I can sort by like star shape, and you see the bottom it changes in the listing down here. So this is sorted from best to worst. So you see this top one would be the best star shapes, and then the bottom one would be the worst star shapes. This is after the meridian flip, so everything switched around.
Okay,
and those
that's awesome.
Slightly,
I like that.
Yeah, they're slightly egg shaped. I would probably still keep that frame, but that's just me. And then you can also see, so you can sort by any of these things, right? You sort by noise, you sort by quality, like, and see how they.
Okay.
However you want to sort.
Yeah.
Sort. The other thing to see here is.
So it's actually it's actually kind of helping you with Blink. I'm just having to hope that I see it with my eyes. With this, right. I can use this tool and actually use what it did in its, in the way that it registered everything and go through and find those specific ones that aren't great.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's nice.
So PixInsight has the subframe selector tool, which does something very similar, and it gives you a graph. And I used it for the first time like last week or something, and it's really nice.
Right.
But I still prefer this way. I just love this program. And when you use PixInsight subframe selector tool, then you have to go in and in order to deselect images that you don't want to use, you have to write in their expression editor and get a little nerdy, which is fine, but
it's a lot more it's a lot more in depth to do to do that, right? So right. This is more intuitive, and it's it's a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So if the final product out of this is good, is at the quality of PixInsight, then I would so far what we've looked at much rather stack through do all of this, to be able to stack.
No doubt.
This. Yeah.
No doubt about it. So you'll notice here, this top frame has been, it's highlighted dark now. That's because Astro Pixel Processor has selected this as our reference frame, and it did that automatically. And I believe where is it? I think it's in the register tab. Let's see. Yeah. So you can, if you wanted to select your own reference frame, you can do that, but it will choose the one that it thinks is the best reference frame. So, but say for example, this is a great thing, the great real world use case of setting a reference frame manually. I'm sure you can think of a billion reasons why you'd want to, but one that I come across often is I do my long narrowband subs for my nebulosity, and then I do a ton of short broadband subs for my stars. So I would let this go through and stack, and I would remember what file this is, right? Night 3 lights, image number 9. I would write that down so I know that's my reference frame. So when I go back and integrate my stars, I'll load this file up, and I'll say, I'll load this file up alongside my RGB short star subs, and I'll say set reference, and then you say, yeah, I want to set a reference, and then you click on the reference frame you want. and then it's changed your reference frame. So now I just changed it from 09 to 27. So in my example, I would then uncheck the reference frame because I don't want that to be used in the final stack. I just want the final stack to use that as the reference.
Okay. So real quick, where we're at right now. So we haven't gone through the full integration and all of that yet.
No.
What was it that so after you've chosen, the files, your files that you're going to use, what was the tool that you used to get to this point? Was it the register tool, the analyze star tool? What was it that we did here?
Oh, in order to get to the point where we can like sort by quality and that kind of stuff?
Yes.
You want to get through normalize.
Normalize. Okay. So normalize is where you want to go to.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can do you could do, I think, star count and you can sort by other things at earlier steps. Like I believe at analyze stars or registration, you could probably sort by star count. But if you want to sort by noise or I believe background, then you have to get all the way through the normalized step.
Okay, and so you just hit normalize lights. Is that the to start that off?
Yeah, and then it'll go through all of your tabs up to tab number 5, normalize, and then it'll stop.
Okay, and when you do that, it gives you good information in that. So just like if you're a PixInsight user, you have that process window. Well, the process window shows up in the center, where right now where Jeff's image is sitting there. That process window will show up there, and it'll go through that, and it'll show you everything that it's working on. So you'll get a good idea of what's going on. So if you like the process window in PixInsight, which I do, I really like the process window. You actually get that here, and isn't that the same window that's in the background that you've minimized already?
So I believe this gives you a little more information.
Okay,
but I'm not positive.
And what I'm asking is, you can go back. You can go back through the logs after you just did that, and look at something if you want to. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you can go all the way back, and it usually. Oh, you can't close that. You can only minimize it. You can show that other stuff here too, which I just don't ever look at this because, I mean, it's showing Fitz header. Like I don't need to see the Fitz header here.
Right.
I'd rather see my image. But yeah, as you're going through the process, this whole part changes to show you what's happening. You don't see your image anymore. You just see the status and the steps that are scrolling through. Okay. Okay. All right. So integrate. We were back here on integrate, right? We had gone through. Oh yeah, we were on the kappa low and kappa high. So this defaults to 6. I mean, just based on my experience with this, I've been able to use this at the pretty much lightest setting that you can, and all the rejection still works just fine. So for this one, I put it at 8, as high as I can go.
And are you doing that just for it to go quicker? Is that the only reason that you're doing that?
No, this is where I want it to be more picky about what it rejects, like stars and planes, and not stars, planes and satellites, and cosmic rays and stuff like that. I want it to be less picky because I don't want it to remove nebulosity. So you could set this kappa low down to like 2.2. This will always have to be, the kappa high will always have to be lower, because it's basically saying this is the stuff that we're between these two is what we're going to work on. So you could do this, but it's going to remove a ton of data.
Okay.
So I leave it as high as it will go at 8, and then this one. The tooltip says, I think, to keep it between 2.2 and 4. But it's too much. So I put this at kappa low 8 and kappa high at 7. So it's not gonna remove nebulosity. It's gonna remove just the stars and just the planes, in my experience at least. You can leave it at the defaults, and a lot of people do leave it at the defaults. I just get paranoid that pixel rejection is going to remove good data, so I back this way down. I know this part is probably the most confusing part of the whole thing, but these are the settings I use, and they work great for me.
And what is it again? One more time. The kappa low is what?
Kappa low, I put it on 8.
Okay.
Are you saying like what actually is it, or what are settings?
No, where are you setting it at?
Yeah, I do kappa low at 8 and kappa high at 7.
Okay.
If the numbers are too low, then it's going to remove too much data.
Okay.
And if the space between the two numbers is too low, also, like if you did
8 and 7.9
8.0 and 7.9, yeah, it's probably not going to remove very much.
Okay.
But this seems to work really, really great for me. I've tried stacking like maximum without doing any pixel rejection, and then doing with these settings and comparing the two to see if I can notice any nebulosity difference, and I don't see any difference.
Now, what if you've gone through each sub and you don't want any of them removed? Would you change that back to
just go to no rejection?
Just no rejection. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Diffraction protection is supposed to help with diffraction spikes. Like if you don't like them, or they're using a camera lens that might not have a diffraction pattern that you like. I never use this, but apparently it has different strengths that you can use it on. But I just leave it off.
Frozen Yak asking where we download your settings cheat sheet.
Nah. I mean, just message me. You know where to find me, probably. I think.
Yeah, his address is 3226. No, it's fine.
Man, that was really close, actually. You got 2 of my street letter numbers correct. Okay, sorry. So composition here. This is basically like in Deep Sky Stacker, you have the option to like just basically have it crop your final integration to your reference frame, or keep all of your stacking artifacts, so that's like full means it's going to keep every single the field of view for each frame individually, so you'll see the stacking artifacts around the edges where it doesn't line up perfectly. Reference will crop it at the reference, I believe, so that it just will be a perfect rectangle, but it'll crop it for you. And I don't know what crop is. I basically, yeah, I just leave it at full because, I think we probably all want to be pretty picky about how we crop out our stacking artifacts. So that's what I leave it at full, and then manually crop out later. Local normalization correction is a big one. It takes a lot of time, a lot of processing time. I mean, it can it'll add at least a third to your processing time, maybe more. But what it does, it's kind of let's look at the tooltip because it's hard to explain, but the default settings are not good. So basically, if you have various gradients across your frame, from the moon being in different positions over the course of the month, or if you change locations and you have a street light right there that's getting in your objective on one night and another night you don't, so you have various gradients, the local normalization correction tries to fix that for you, or at least even it out some. And you can Google it and find it on Astro Pixel Processor forums. You can see where people have done tests that show the difference. And honestly, I don't see a difference at all until I go 4th degree local normalization correction, 3 iterations. The tooltip, I believe, says start at first degree. And let's see what it says, actually. It says start with first degree in 1 iteration, then improve from there if needed. First increase the iterations to 3. If that doesn't change the outcome, increase the degree. I honestly can't tell the difference at all until I get up to 4th degree, 3 iterations. And even then, it's not a massive change. But you can look up the examples on their forum and you can see the ones they posted. It does make a difference. It evens out the background a bit. It helps with gradients a bit. It takes a lot of processing time. But for me, like I said earlier, like I would rather use more processing time and have a better image, even if it's just slightly better. To me, we spend so much time getting these images, figuring out our gear, trying to make everything work. Then why would you skimp here? And, maybe it's an extra couple hours of your computer thinking while you're watching television. So, that's why not have it do the extra processing if it's going to make it even a slight bit better.
Right.
So I just always use, I'm always imaging from my house here in basically downtown Nashville with Bortle 8.5 or so. So I have the same conditions all the time pretty much. So these are the ones that I've settled on, and I think they're probably generally good for anyone who has varying gradients in their image. If yours are out of control crazy and you can't fix it with the light pollution removal tool, then maybe you bump that up some, but I don't see any reason to go any higher. Going any lower, I don't know. I couldn't really tell a difference at all. So this is what I go with. Your mileage may vary, but okay. So multi-band blending is basically a way of blending the edges of your integration together. So where on the edges where you'll have your stacking artifacts, sometimes they look bad, right? And like, say, let me zoom in and pan over. Well, I can't. Say you've got like one night that was, say this is one night that we're looking at right here, and you had a second night that was slightly off. So your second night's integration lined up right here, for example, right? Just off the edge. Mm-hmm. Multi-band blending blends those edges together so that you don't see the various sessions and nights together. Is like, it basically blends the edges so it reduces stacking artifacts. Did I explain that well? Does that make sense?
Sure.
Sure. That's not confidence inspiring. Well, let's read the tooltip and see if that's more clear. A tool to blend images into each other. It will reduce stack artifacts at the borders of regular integrations and will remove seams and mosaics. Oh yeah, that's another good way to use it.
Okay.
So since it's basically blending the edge of your frame. When you have multiple frames that have slightly different framings or very different framings because it's a mosaic, it blends the edges together.
Okay.
So I usually keep this on just because I'll leave it at 5 to 10%. If you got a mosaic that has a lot of overlap, then you might bump this up to 20%, maybe even 30%. But it just makes those seams a little better. But enable that. It doesn't hurt anything, and at 5%, it's barely doing the edges, so it's not going to affect anything in a negative way. And then you got drizzling down here, which I don't ever do. If you want to, you can look it up and figure out how to do it. But I'm already at 26 megapixels, and I don't see a reason to drizzle from there unless I was shooting a target that was super small or something. But anyway, I don't do that. So at this point, you're done. You could hit integrate, and then you name what you want to call it. I'll call this AVP test with Wade. And it's going to save it to whatever directory you chose when you opened up the file, like your master directory. So we don't have to sit through all of this, but we'll let it go for a second. Just see, I guess it's on register, so then it's got to go through normalize and integrate. It should be already normalized, I thought. We changed our reference frame. That's why it's re-registering, and it will probably re-normalize too. So we can skip this, and I'll just open up one of my my full stack, and we can look at the tools section with that, if that sounds good.
Sure. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, it's normalizing, and then it'll go on. So I'm just going to restart this so we can get a fresh, clean slate. And I'll choose my directory where it shows it to me. So I've got my final stacks here. They're in there. You can't see them. So you remember, if you already got a processed file, you load it here in the other or processed tab. So I've got like my HA03 color stack. That just means that was the stack that was done with the HA03 color algorithm. And that's all that means. I've got the 03 there also, and then my stars that I did, my RGB stars, 5-second subs, 10-second subs, 20-second subs, and then all of them together. We'll just open the color one.
Mm-hmm.
And then double click down here. You see, this is cool. It shows you, this is the total integration of 700 or so frames. So that's 335,520 seconds exposure, which is pretty intense, I think. And this, I believe, is going to be slightly misleading. Yeah. You remember how I said when we were looking at my files, sorry. Remember how I said night 1 wasn't rotated properly?
Yes.
Well, that's what you're seeing here. This frame is the night 1 that wasn't rotated properly, and this sideways one was the rest of my nights, the other like 20 and 28 nights or something like that. So we'll neutralize the background to this. Also, everything that happens over here is not permanent. So like when I hit the neutralize background button, it neutralizes the background, but it's not, it doesn't save it that way.
Right.
Your file is still down here untouched until another file shows up down here. That's when you know that something has been permanently changed, but it's saved a new file. So I'll neutralize the background. And then we're going to go over to the tools tab. So for this, the first thing I want to do is I want to rotate this. So you can do this in pretty much any program, but I'm just going to do it in here because we're already here. So you can say I want to rotate it clockwise or counterclockwise. I know for this example, I want to rotate it 180 degrees. So it's going to think that through, and it's going to give me a preview here. That looks good. I mean, this is not perfectly flat here. I'd like it to be. So when I do my final edit on this, I might not do it exactly 180 degrees, but in this instance, it's going to work just fine.
Okay.
You can do a batch, so you can crop multiple files the exact same way if you want. The way that you do that is to not have, see how this image is loaded here, it's loading. If the image is loaded, then that's what image the tool is going to work on. If you, I don't know how to unload this. I mean, I just did it a minute ago, but basically, if you didn't have this loaded, with no image loaded here, you hit batch, rotate, resize. Then instead of saying, do you want to rotate, resize the current image in the viewer? Then instead of that, it will open up a like Windows Explorer dialog where you can load multiple files and then crop them all the same. Like a true batch crop, you know?
Yeah.
And the same is appropriate here with the rotation also. I'm sorry, I mixed cropping and rotating there, but I think you know what I mean. You can batch crop or batch rotate. You just got to load up the files without having them loaded in the main window. Okay, so I'll hit rotate resize. It's going to ask where I want to save that. So yeah, go ahead.
That what you were just showing us right there. So when it saves, so it's going to use both of those nights. I mean, it's going to use even not both of the nights. I don't know how many nights there were, but it's going to use all of it, even the rotated one. But it's going to crop that rotated one, the rotated night, and just keep the data that's within the rest of the.
Yeah. I'll show you what I'm talking about, because the multi-band blending is going to make a lot of sense here too. You see this seam right here?
Yes.
Right?
And it's going to blend that.
Here and here and here. Yeah, because multi-band blending is on, once I get done, you won't even see these lines.
That's freaking awesome, man.
Yeah, it's really awesome. So I'm going to rotate this how I want it to be rotated. It's going to think through it. And then once you've got it where you want it, you just hit rotate resize. It'll ask you where you want to save it. I'm going to save it here. And then always make sure that this is 32-bit. I don't know that it really matters if you do integers or floats, but if you do 16-bit, which mine was on for a while, you'll have really weird, like pixelated, grainy, noisy looking rings and patterns in your image when you do light pollution removal. You need the full 32 bits for it to work. And I think it defaults to 32-bit now, so that's fine. You can change it to different file types if you want. So now it's saved that file you see down here. Now we have night 29 stack HA03 color, and it says the degrees, 180 degrees clockwise that I rotated. So double click that to load up the newly rotated file. And there it is. Now I want to crop. So if I didn't have an image loaded here and I hit batch crop, it would bring up a Windows Explorer, window, so I could load as many files as I wanted to and do a batch crop. I just want to do this one though. It's already loaded in the window, so it's going to default to just doing the image in the image viewer. And then you just draw where you want your crop to be. I oftentimes will draw it like this and then see like, oh yeah, I got too close over there. Could have gotten a little closer over here. So I'll pick another corner, the corner that I think needs to be changed the most, and start it over. So then I can get the height where I want it and the edges where I want it exactly.
Right.
I'm going to be a little bit more conservative on this one, just because.
Can you zoom in on this?
Yeah.
At all? Okay.
You can't mouse around anymore. It would be nice if you could hold the space bar and pan around, but you can't.
Yeah, okay.
You have to, on this one, you have to use, and in the light pollution tool, you also have to use the scroll bars.
Okay. Well, that's fine, though. I mean, as long as I can zoom in onto where I want to look to get that crop really tight.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I want to lose as little as possible,
Yeah. So hit crop, it's going to ask you again where you want to save it. I'll do that same folder, 32 bits, and then you'll see it pops a new one down here. So now we see it is 180 degrees clockwise rotated and cropped. So I'll load this up. Now we have our cropped version. And you can see my light pollution. Clear as day.
Yeah.
Right? This looks like a beast to clean up.
Yep.
This is my favorite part. So, remove light pollution. Yes, I want to remove light pollution. So what I love about this tool, it works similarly to dynamic background extraction in PixInsight, except you can do it iteratively. So you can do it a little bit at a time and see how it looks, and then go back a little bit if you want and change things. So you have to draw at least 5 boxes in order for it to give you some kind of preview, which we will do. We'll start drawing boxes. Another thing I like about this is you don't have to worry about stars. If you can draw a box over stars and it's fine.
It knows they're stars.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like I just did that one. I don't ever really do boxes that big, but you can always undo the last one that you did by hitting undo area selection.
Okay.
This is the other time where this right panel can come in handy. So you see this defaults to 50. This right here is the amount that it's doing the auto stretch for you, which it's not saving the auto stretch, by the way. It's just for the preview.
Right.
So you can stretch it more if you want. Like I'll go up to 30% and you'll see it'll stretch the crap out of it. And then I'll also go up to, say, saturation. Oh, you have to enable saturation. And I'll crank up the saturation. No, that was not. That was the saturation threshold. I want that all the way down. This is misleading because the way that it's labeled, I get confused sometimes that the label is actually below the slider. So you want the saturation threshold, which is by default at like 1 or something. You want to take that down, or else it's not going to apply saturation to everything. It's going to only apply saturation to things above that threshold. And I want it to apply it to everything. So I take it all the way down. And then you can crank your saturation if you want. So you can really see where the nebulosity is and where it isn't, what you want to remove and what you don't want to remove.
Right.
This is a bit extreme. Normally my images don't look this crazy in here, but for some reason now they do. I'm just going to turn that off because it looks weird to me. And I've done this image enough that I kind of already know where I want my spots to be, but I'll show you.
I don't even think Dustin would cook one that long.
No, probably not. All right, so we got to start off by doing 5 boxes. I know there's no nebulosity down here. I don't think there's any down here. There's a little bit up here, but I think there's none right here. And I think we're safe over here. We'll go here too. And then I'll hit calculate, and it's going to think through, and then it's going to start.
So you just did what, 5 boxes? 6? Maybe?
I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. 5 boxes here. So what's cool about this? Oh, Gibson Picks in the house. Oh, Dustin.
There he is. There he is.
We're looking at a light pollution removal and Astro Pixel Processor. I wish there was a way. I hope he saw the original, because it's going to look a lot different. Okay, so this was iteration 1, right? It kept our boxes. We can now add more, or you can't really remove them one at a time, which is unfortunate. It's supposed to be coming in an update. But it's not there yet. So once you've done the calculation, these boxes will change colors. You see this one's green, that one's green. These are yellow. Green means this is basically Astro Pixel Processor telling you how confident it is that you have selected something without nebulosity.
Okay.
So green obviously is like good to go. Right. Yellow is maybe, we'll see. Okay. Red means it thinks that you've covered up some nebulosity.
Okay.
It's not always accurate. I mean, maybe it's a computer, so I guess it is always accurate. But I've left some red boxes on there before, and everything's still been fine. Yeah. So you had a question?
No, I was just going to say that's not nebulosity. That's the runway at the airport next to me. So stop.
No doubt. Okay, so I'm going to draw some more on here. You can still see the gradient, right? It's moved. Like, it's less in the middle, and it's kind of moved the gradient to the edges. So I'm going to continue. I know that this is where zooming in is super helpful. I know there's really no nebulosity like right around here. And there's a section up here that doesn't really have much. We'll see. If you draw the box too small, it won't let you. I think I can go up here, down here. I think there's a small section down here that's good. I'm going to have to hit this up in a second, but it's hard to tell what's going on up there right now, right? So I'm going to calculate again with my new points added. starting to get better, right?
Mm-hmm.
That one is a red one, probably not good. So I'm going to hit remove red, and it'll remove that red one. I know that this is a good place, so I'm going to just move it slightly over. And I'm starting to see what's going on up here in this corner.
So I just want to add, as this is getting better now, I'm starting to see this.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, I don't know anybody else that pulls in the amount of stars you do with your images.
Man, well, this is 700 8-minute subs, you know?
It's ridiculous, man. I never get that many stars.
It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. It's too much, in my opinion, which is why I do a whole separate run of no filter RGB stars and add those later.
Okay.
But so like I just added, I'm going to add some boxes up here. I think that one was already there. Yeah, Dustin, 700 8-minute subs. I'm at like 94 hours now, and I was going to finish this project and be done with it. But now that I've kind of seen what it's like to process on a fast computer, I'm waiting on my new MacBook Pro to get here so I can finish this image. And that's a different story also. I'd have trouble getting my colors looking good on the monitor that I'm using now. But whenever I do color calibration on a Mac screen, it just looks good everywhere. It's like when I used to do audio engineering, right? I paid my way through college doing audio engineering. And I went and bought the best audio mixing monitors I could find, the Mackie HR824s, THX certified, mixed an album on it. It was the best sounding album I've ever done. I took it out to the car and to my other stereos in my friends' houses, and it sounded like garbage.
Yeah.
So then I bought NS10s, which are those black speakers with the white speaker cones that you see in every studio everywhere.
Yep.
They don't sound great at all, but if they sound good on those speakers, they sound good everywhere. That's what a Mac screen is like for me when editing photos. If it looks good on there, it's going to look good everywhere. So long story short, I'm waiting on the new Mac to get here. It should be here in the next week to 2 weeks. And then I'll finish processing this photo all together. And it might just happen that by the time that the new Mac gets here, the moon will be gone enough that I can add a little more data to this image before
get up to 100 hours, man.
I might. We'll see. Join the 100-hour club with you, Wade.
Yeah, we get special jackets.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
I'll take a jacket. All right, I'm going to try to find another spot up here that doesn't have nebulosity. I'm just going to pick the corner. We'll see what happens. Dustin, see you, man.
See you, Dustin.
Okay, that looks good. Okay, you see, I put that last box up in the top left.
Yeah,
it's decent up there. While I'm over here, you're starting to be able to see where the nebulosity is and isn't much better now that we've done a couple passes successfully.
I don't know, man. I can't see through the star field.
Yeah, that does make it difficult. This is maybe where the saturation will come in handy. So like super saturate it. You can see some faint red. It's some faint, especially when you pull back on it, you're starting to see dust and stuff. I think I could probably put one up there, it looks like. Maybe right there. I could probably even go like in here, but that's a really tiny.
Yeah, that's pretty cool though. But over there on that left, towards the left top corner, you see that nebulosity showing up that wasn't there at all without the saturation.
Yeah. So I'm just going to add a few more where it seems like good spots to go, where there might still be some background to take out. You see that I got a red down here. Yeah. So I'm going to remove that and try it in a different spot.
Okay.
Okay. Calculate this one again. See what it looks like. We get any reds. See, now we have a red down here. Everything else looks okay. See, this is an example where I'm pretty sure that this is just fine. So I'm going to keep it. This looks okay to me.
Oh, look who just dropped in.
Jazz Whiz.
Yep. Dustin leaves and Jazz Whiz drops in.
Don't you know? Did I stretch this all the way? Oh, there we go. I forgot to stretch it all the way. I just turned the saturation way up. So you can really start to see more, you know. Like this is probably a totally safe place to put a box. Let's calculate. If I don't get any red boxes here, I'm just going to keep this as it is. And you look, that one I just put through a red box.
And see, I was going to ask, what's the? I mean, are you just going to do this until eyeballing it? You say, "Wow, that's enough," or is there some other? So you do it as many times until it looks good to you.
Yeah,
there.
And so the problem is if you don't have a lot of light pollution. Say you've just got like, let me pull this back to where it looks kind of normal. Get rid of the saturation too. If you don't have, I mean, look, that's just so much better than it was, right?
Oh yeah,
crazy. So if you don't have a ton of light pollution, say you've just got a galaxy here and like a pretty steady gradient from left to right.
The moon is at one side of it.
Sure, yeah. You could get on here, say your target's just here. You could get on here and put a box here this big and another one down here, another one over here, another one over here. You got to have 5, so you draw another small one wherever. And that'll probably work just fine. But on something like this, where there's a ton of nebulosity all over the frame and you've got crazy gradient going through it, it is best to start to do it in chunks.
Yeah.
So you do like the part that this part over on the left side was darker already, less of a gradient. So I started drawing boxes, and then it might temporarily, you draw your boxes, you hit calculate. It'll do that first pass, and for that first pass, it might look like trash, but you'll start to see where you need to put your next boxes. And you just keep going until you get across the whole frame and everything looks good to you, which I'm here now. Like, this looks good to me. Then you hit OK and save. And
it's saving it unstretched, right?
Right.
Okay,
we'll get there.
I love that.
That's what I want to show you next.
Okay.
So now you see it's changed the file name to 180 degrees counterclockwise or clockwise, cropped, light pollution correction, and corrected background.
Okay.
So when I said earlier in the normalization, I didn't want to neutralize the background because it's happening here already. It happens in the light pollution removal tool. Okay, so this is basically all I do in Astro Pixel Processor. You can do RGB combine here if you want. You can do calibrate star colors, which is very confusing and in-depth. But not as good as like photometric color calibration in PixInsight, for example. I think who was it? Third Rock a while back when we first started was asking if PixInsight. He said he'd heard that PixInsight is better at some things than Astro Pixel Processor and vice versa. Yes, yeah, that's true for sure. Like the light pollution removal tool in Astro Pixel Processor, in my opinion, is way better than automatic background extraction or dynamic background extraction.
Well,
and I'll pull up this. I'm going to pull it up in PixInsight real quick and show you the difference in what I did in Astro Pixel Processor versus an automatic background extraction.
Right.
But there's a star reducer tool in here. Not good. It doesn't work very well, especially when you got StarNet and StarNet V2.
Yeah, right.
So I'm going to close this out and I'll open up PixInsight. And we'll take a look at what it really looks like. I'm actually going to load up the final stacks. Let's load up. Let's load up the raw file, and then let's load up the corrected background one. It's not. I just need to load up the cropped one. You see, that was the pre pre-rotated and pre-cropped one. So I'm going to load up the cropped one because it shouldn't have the background extracted. Or maybe it does. I don't know. Okay. So I'm just going to do an unlinked stretch on this guy. Yeah. You can still see the gradient in there. This is non-light pollution removal on this one on the right. No LP removal. And we'll call this one LP. Oops. Okay. So you see the difference here. Let's go ahead and stretch these. Should we do a color calibration just so that they're more equal? Takes a little time, but
I would leave it. I would stretch it because we're comparing.
Yeah. So I'm going to do an unlinked stretch on both of them so we don't have the green in there.
Yes.
Oh, man, that looks so bad. Unlinked. Because the background has been calibrated. Man.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I mean, that's not what you're...
Yeah. I would really like to get apples to apples on this. And I think it's going to be better if we do a color calibration on both of them.
Yeah, okay.
It's just going to take a second because the only way that I do color calibration that I really know how to in PixInsight is with photometric color calibration. And it just takes a second. But I've got this all saved for what it needs to be, except for cone. And then we've got to choose a region of interest. Just a section without any nebulosity. Let's go right there. Doesn't have to be big. Okay, so we'll run it on here real quick, take a couple minutes. Okay, let's check the chat for a second.
Let's see, what's up, Mystic? Mystic saying... new here and to the whole topic. Yep. So we do astrophotography. We point telescopes up at stuff in the sky at night or during the day, I guess, the sun. And then we take photos of it. Things in the when we're imaging things that are at night that are far, some of these things are 500,000 light years away. Some of them, galaxies are multiple million light years away. And so they're very dim. So we have to take many photos of that. We take a ton of photos and then we stack those photos together to make one master photo. So we've just done that. That's what we did in the other application that we were using. Now we are checking out, we're combining because we have light pollution. So all the light that you have around your house, around, if you live in a city, all that, it kind of shines up into the air and it hits that atmosphere. And it creates light pollution for us that we're shooting through. And it adds a bunch of light into our images. So we're pulling that light pollution. That's what we're doing right now. Is pulling that light pollution out as much as we can. And we're combining that with two different applications that we've been doing that with. One is PixInsight, which has been kind of the de facto for this for a long time now. and a newer application. It's been out a while, but more and more people are starting to use it. It's called Astro Pixel Processor. So we're kind of combining those two applications with this. So it's a lot of it's there's a little bit of a learning curve here, but it's once you've done a successful image. I mean, my image, I remember my first one was, I just didn't know how to process it all. And it was horrible compared to, to what I do today. And, but I mean, once I did that, I was hooked. There was, right. I mean, you
no doubt,
you get that first, I mean, you're almost hooked when you see the first sub roll in, right?
Well, that's like the first layer of the addiction, right?
Right.
Seeing that first sub roll through after like a
right. That's like the
1 minute sub or something.
That's like the marijuana addiction of this, and then you move on to like coke, and then the next thing you're on meth, right? And your teeth are falling out, and but you've got like the best, you've got all chroma filters and full frame cameras or medium format cameras now. So
teeth are a privilege.
That's right. Teeth are a privilege.
All right. So this one is done with color calibration. We'll do this one real quick.
Yes, it is. These applications, these two that we're using, are specific for astrophotography. Now, once I do some of my stuff in here, I move over to like Adobe Camera Raw or Topaz Labs. There's some stuff I like in Topaz Labs. There's also, I mean, some people use Photoshop, some people use Lightroom, some people use. There's any of those. You do get to a point where you can use those, but we start out with these that are specific to astrophotography.
Third Rock says, Jeffrey Horne, do you ever find yourself not running DBE on nebula images due to nebulosity at the edges? I don't, because I don't run DBE. I use the light pollution tool in Astro Pixel Processor. But when I have done DBE in here, I wouldn't let that stop me. If there's nebulosity on the edges, you just don't select the edges with your the points that you have to choose. Okay, so now these have both been photometric color calibrated, and I'll stretch them.
There you go.
I don't need to do SCNR because I'm done with color calibration.
Right, and the difference you're seeing right now is the one on the left. We've already removed the light pollution.
Yeah.
Out of it in the previous application, Astro Pixel Processor. The one on the right, we haven't done that yet to this.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where we're going to use the PixInsight application or PixInsight process to do it, and then compare them to see which one we think did better.
Yeah. Okay, this is just the cropped one. Yeah. So that there. Whoa, what did I just do? Hold on.
Back it up.
Didn't do anything. All right, this is NS crop. Oh, I know what I did. I just have these backwards. I usually have these panes reversed. So I drug the wrong thing onto the wrong thing. All right, so let's do this one now. This is the CPG file. No. Okay. Now these have both been stretched, color calibrated, and I'm just gonna delete these previews because they're annoying. Okay. Now let's clone this and do like a DBE, right?
A DBE and
I mean, let's start with an ABE, automatic background extraction.
Okay.
Now I know we want to subtract, discard the background model. Any other things you would change on this
No.
for DBE?
I do not.
Just go straight out.
That's it. Yeah, I leave those. If I'm doing the auto, I just stick with the default settings.
Well, here's another question though. Do you background extract on a stretched or linear file?
On a stretched.
Okay, cool.
So
well,
sometimes I do on a linear file, but I find myself doing it more on a stretched file than I do.
Gotcha. Okay, so here is on the right now is automatic background extractor versus Astro Pixel Processor light pollution removal versus straight out of camera, basically. Now, we can go in and do...
Can you do me a favor? Can you SCNR that and pull the green out just so we can see what that... Yeah, so now, though you pulled the green out, it's blue.
Yeah.
Right? So, yes, I definitely would not go that direction. And experiences like this is why I use, why I've taken the time to start using the dynamic background extraction instead.
Yeah. Dynamic background extraction, even, let's try one for that. This is the original here. Let me just move these. Oh, it's gone forever. So if we were to...
Just clone that.
That's what I did. I'm just going to call this DBE. Process, dynamic background. Now, I know everybody has their own way of doing this. So what do you normally change on here, Wade?
Well, go back and, just like on auto background extractor, I go back in and say, set that to subtract on there.
Yeah.
I
can't do that yet because I don't have any.
Click. Just click. You can do it without clicking. Just click into the image first. There you go. Now you can do it. So I do not. So I don't ever let it. What you just did. I know this has nothing to do with this, but I don't ever replace the. I don't allow it to replace the image. Is that what happened on that last one when you did the? I don't know.
No, I'm not sure.
I always have it create another image. So just.
I gotcha.
Right. So
you don't click replace target image.
I don't replace target image. I like to be able to go back and compare them, and then and I when I'm doing it, I'll have a stack of images that are basically each one is like a history. Like every time I make a change, I'll stack those, and then I can go back any point into my editing that I've done.
Right. That makes sense.
So, mostly you can keep this, even with dynamic background extractor, you can keep this mostly at your default settings, and have good results in this. But you want to be really careful with where you're selecting. Right in this one, you can't do like what you did over in APP
with stars.
And hit stars. Yep, you've got to make sure that you're not in stars when you're doing it.
It's going to be impossible.
You can get it.
I mean, you can change the size, right?
Yeah.
Where's that? Radius.
Yeah.
5. Yeah, that'll work. See that?
Yep.
So how many points would you normally put?
Man, I go. I might try 15 or 20 in a square, honestly. Okay. When I have a good like on in this image, you've got so much on that right side. It looks like you did, some of this was during the moon was out and That's where it was, or that's where the city was, or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Both.
I will when I get those, which I get a lot where I'm imaging from.
Mm-hmm.
I put as many as I can.
Gotcha. I'm just gonna go through here and go by my eye and see what makes sense.
Right. And one of the things though too is that in this, you know, it's harder to tell what we're sitting over here because you can't saturate anything like you do.
Yeah. Well, you also can't do it iteratively, right? So it's going to do it all at once. I can't just do this corner and see how it looks and then do more.
That's right.
Which would be really nice right now. But like you can see, there's nebulosity all through here.
Yeah.
Until we get down here. So I'll do some over here. This is not going to be the best automatic or dynamic background extraction.
I don't know. I think it'll be a good example for DBE.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. I used to use this until I discovered Astro Pixel Processor, and now I just don't even bother with this anymore.
Yeah.
I like here, it looks like there's no nebulosity in these spots, but I know there is.
Yeah.
That's a problem already.
Right.
Don't laugh at my star shapes. Let's do some at the top and some at the bottom.
What are you using the TPO here, or are you using a camera?
Yeah, this is the TPO 180 ultra wide. All right, we are getting there.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a quick star net on these also, so you can see that you really notice a bigger difference without the stars in there. Whoa, okay. All right. It's starting to get into some nebulosity down there.
Yes, Astro Jab. You try to avoid stars in PixInsight, definitely.
Yeah. All right, you want to run this? Should I put some more in the center, or?
No, I think that's good. I think this will be a good test.
I can come out here a little bit, I think. No. Let's see. We'll do a couple more. Oh, that's probably going to be on star.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I think
just run it like this.
Yeah.
Okay. Triangle or hit the check? I can't remember.
I think it's a check on this.
Cool. Okay, it did it. That was quick.
Yeah. So not, so definitely better than the automatic.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely better.
But nowhere near as good as I'm sold on this. Nowhere near as good as.
Yeah, look at the gradients on the corners. And look at here. I mean, it looks awesome, doesn't it?
Yeah. And you haven't done anything to the image on the left. All you've done is done the background extraction and stretched it. You haven't done any kind of, there's no curves or.
No, this is the one on the left has only been touched in Astro Pixel Processor, and then I did color calibration and stretched it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go back to the raw.
Astro Jav says the right looks like the first pass in APP.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
I totally see that. This was our untouched stack, I believe. Yeah. Okay, now we have both of our original stacks here. The untouched here and the Astro Pixel Processor one here. or the light. Sorry, they both have been done like calibrated, integrated, normalized, registered, all of that in Astro Pixel Processor. This one has had the left one has had light pollution removal tool used. The right one has not.
Right. Hold on just a second. So Mystic asked a question: are you trying to remove all the colors except the red in the middle? That's a broader question. I mean, the answer, there's a lot to that, but no. Mm-hmm. So in space, hydrogen is the most prevalent gas, and it's red if you are using one-shot color or RGB. It's red. That's what color hydrogen is. Then there's nitrogen that's really close on the histogram when you're looking at your colors. Nitrogen is right beside red, so right beside hydrogen, so it's still red. Sulfur, there's a pretty good amount of sulfur up there. Sulfur is still in the red spectrum. Oxygen, and we use oxygen 3 is what we're looking at. That's more in the blue spectrum. So really red and blue are the two colors that are really, really prevalent in space. Well, when you're using a color camera, basically what you have is you have your sensor. Your camera has a sensor on it. And on top of that sensor is like a kind of a, if you want to call it it's not really a filter. It's not, I mean, I guess it is kind of a filter, but it uses something called the Bayer matrix. And in that, 1/4 of your camera's pixels, or photo sites are really what they're called before they become pixels. 1/4 of those is reserved for red. 1/4 is reserved for blue, and then 1/2 is reserved for green, because we have so much green on Earth. But in space, there's really not much green up there at all. And so whenever you see greens in an image, that's not true to the color of what you're seeing. So we do want to pull out greens most of the time from an image. Now, one of the things about astrophotography is there's a technical side to it, but there's also an artistic side to it. So some people might want to leave the green in for artistic reasons, and that's totally fine. So, but a lot of people will remove the greens out. But what we're trying to do here is we're trying to pull out the light pollution that was in there. And whenever we used one of the tools a while ago, when we did that, it left, instead of the light pollution, it left a lot of green sitting there. So then we went in and tried to pull the green out, and when we did that, it left a lot of blue. But what it was, no matter what, was a lot of unnatural color that was in there from the light pollution. And so all we're really trying to do is get rid of the light pollution. We don't want to remove any of the other colors right now, just the light pollution. We do want to remove, I think Jeff would remove the green if it's in there later on, but that's later on in a whole different time of the processing period than this. So right now, really all we want to do is remove the light pollution. So there we go.
Correct.
Sorry, long-winded.
You're all good.
But I mean, it's a lot, right? It's kind of a long explanation of what's going on with colors in space imaging, right?
Absolutely. There's a lot to it.
Yeah. Mystic said, okay. So in my mind, he's saying, okay. That was a long explanation, right? So
I guess,
yeah. But yeah, no. It's that's a perfectly normal question. No apologies needed there. That is a perfectly normal question, especially beginning out with this, because you want to know, hey, what am I trying to remove here? What totally. What am I trying to remove? What do I not want to remove? So anyway.
All right, I'm gonna run StarNet on this guy. on both of them. So, oh, I did this really quickly. Also, it's something I just learned in Pixel It's cool. You can match the zooming on your frame. So
yeah,
like,
you can drag something over to something. Yes.
Yeah, like here, you see this nebulosity up here?
Yeah.
And you don't really see it in this one.
Right.
But I can like zoom in on this so you can really get close on it. And then you just drag the title over to the title of the other one and it matches it.
Okay.
So you can see here, huge difference.
Right. Massive.
Massive. Okay, not that one. Let's do a StarNet. You get to see the 380 runs StarNet now. Also, I'm just going to do it on 256 to be fast with it. And there's still some issues with StarNet V2 on GPU. It crashes every now and then. But look at that, flying through.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It still crashes from time to time, but that's why I saved these files before I'm running StarNet on. Then you can see here, you see the gradient clear as day.
Yeah, are you going to do that on the other image?
Oh yeah.
Can you create a star mask? I just want to see those stars separately.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't crash. I'll show you my 5-second stars, also the RGB stars that I'll throw in there.
So are you using your GPU to do this?
Yeah, it's GPU accelerated.
Okay, because Third Rock was saying he didn't think that the GPU worked with that yet.
It does. Third Rock, you have to just install it like you normally would. If you already have your GPU working on StarNet V1, you install StarNet V2 just like it says, but don't overwrite the TensorFlow file. Keep your original TensorFlow file instead of the new one that comes with StarNet V2, and it will work. There's the star layer. You can see there's Hubble's variable nebula is in here. This little guy right there, which shows up in here also.
Yes.
So hard to find.
Yes.
You see it?
Yeah. Oh no, I don't. I don't know that I see it in the star field.
Oh well, let's use our new trick.
Right.
Right there, you see it picked out some of that nebula. So in my final image, I'll end up cutting this and putting it on there so that it matches up better. But I mean, look at the difference.
Yeah, man.
It's so good. I mean, you can see all of this nebulosity in here and all of this cloudiness and this little wispy guy going up here.
Right.
This little wispy guy here is almost completely hidden. So much. Look at all of this stuff up here. These clouds up in here, they're just not there in the other one.
Right. Even in the kind of just left of the center. Right when it goes towards the whiteness there.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got so much more detail in that.
Oh yeah.
Right in that area. Than you do. I mean, it's
crazy.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. I'm a fan of Astro Pixel Processor.
Yeah, you could maybe pull that out on the right eventually, like maybe a good percentage of it. But that's a lot of more work and a lot of more processing, obviously, that doesn't need to be done, right?
Yeah, totally.
You want to process as little as possible when you're doing astrophotography.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that's me in light polluted areas. I notice that if I'm doing anything under, like if I'm just doing one night of data, like I don't know, let's just say I do 4 hours of data.
Yeah.
And I compare that to doing 8 hours or 12 hours of data. I'm doing so much less processing on that 12 hours than I am on the 4 hours. And that's why I like more time on it, right? So so this is just another example of not needing all that to spend all that time. When I did that North America that had all those hours in it, I didn't do much. Like, I just couldn't believe it. I did not do much. Other things I'll spend, a 24-hour period of editing. Just, if I added up all the hours of editing, 24 hours or something, on that one, it was like maybe 2. And it was, maybe not even that. I don't even know if it was that. I just remember sitting there kind of like, my wife was sitting in here on the couch with me, and I was like, I was like, I didn't do anything. I just took this image and it did it, So anyway.
Man, it's the same with oh wait. That's fine. Same with audio recording, right? Like, you got amazing sounding tracks with amazing musicians, and like that was always such a pleasure. Like, I had a friend of mine in college, Wyatt, he's basically like a session player now.
Yeah.
Whenever I knew if I was recording him, it's going to be a breeze. I wasn't going to have to really EQ anything or even compress anything. And definitely not edit anything. And
the moment you have to bring in auto-tune, crap, I'm going to be here a long time fixing this.
Yeah. So I'm just showing you my star layer that I got real quick. I did a crop. Let's do the calibration on it.
So you cropped that already. I would never do that, because you were saying that you line it back up somewhere else. And I use Pixel Math to line everything up in here. So I don't ever crop until after. Or I'll crop first. I'll crop my image and get rid of what I don't want before I start doing the I might stretch it. I might go ahead and stretch it at the very beginning. Do the not do the actual stretch, but just do the preview stretch, crop it, and then start my workflow on
it. Wait, say that. I was distracted. I'm sorry. Say that again.
So I like using Pixel Math, right, to line everything back up. So what I'll do is I don't ever crop these things separately. My stars and my nebulosity, I don't ever crop them separately. I might even, at the very beginning of before I've even stretched the image, do the stretch preview, do the dynamic crop then at the very beginning before it's even stretched, and then start my stretching, background removal, star net, all that afterwards. So I know anyway, but that's how I do that. I know a lot of people are fans of bringing layers back into using Photoshop and stuff like that. I don't know if you do that or not, but I've never been really good at that with my stars.
So what I do in Astro Pixel Processor, I'll show you how I would do this. So choose my directory. Now I would say I'm using a multi-session, multi-session processing, and then I would bring in my lights, say like all of my narrowband lights, right? And I would call this like L Extreme, because that's the filter I used for that. And then I would go through and pick up every night that I did with the L Extreme. So night 4, and assign that to the L Extreme session. And the same with night 5. All of them would do the same. L Extreme. And then I would have my stars, right? So I'll go in here to, where did I put them? Where are you? Stars. So I've got like my lights, 5-second subs. I did like 300 of them that night. So I would load up those, but I would name this separate session. This would be, we'll just call it stars. So it's added those 300 subs now also. And you can see down here, we've got light. So it names the session here, light 61 for L extreme session. And then we've got the stars session here.
Right.
And so now I've had 2 sessions effectively, right? One with my narrowband, one with my broadband stars. And you do the same with your calibration frames. So like loading up calibration frames for my narrowband, I'll take my 482nd dark frames and apply those to the L extreme. And then, oh, those were flat frames, whatever. Imagine that they were darks. And then I would do the same thing with my stars, right? Stars, darks, 5 seconds, load those up and apply those to the stars layer. So now I've got one session that has my narrowband subs and my narrowband darks, which were based 480 seconds. And I have another session that is my RGB 5-second star subs, along with the darks for those also. But, you know, I got them wrong. I did flats instead of darks, but you see what I'm saying. Does that all make sense? You there, Wade? Hello? Wade? Can everybody else hear me?
Yeah. You're good.
Okay, cool.
Sorry about that.
You're all good. Did that make sense, what I was saying? With the sessions?
Yes. No, definitely.
Okay. So then once I've got all of them loaded up, I've got my narrowband session with all of the appropriate calibration frames assigned to that session. Then my RGB stars loaded in with all the appropriate frames there also. Mm-hmm. Then once you get through to the registration, you get a reference frame, right? That's going to be for all of your light subs, your light frames. And then when you go to integrate, I can say integrate per session. So then what it's going to do, it's going to integrate all of my narrowband subs to a reference frame, you know, matching to a reference frame. And it's going to integrate all of my RGB stars matching to that same reference frame as a separate file.
Right.
So I'll end up with these 2 files that look like this. I think it's in Final Stacks. So I'll end up with this, like an HA03 color, which is my narrowband, and I'll end up with stars 5 seconds. And those are lined up, registered to each other. Mm-hmm. They'll be totally fine. So as long as I do like the batch crop here in Astro Pixel Processor and crop them both the same, then when I put them on top of each other in Photoshop, they line up perfectly, just like they are.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so it's similar. You just use Pixel Math instead.
Right. Well, no, I use Pixel Math to put them back together.
Uh-huh.
So, I see what you're saying. Yes. So So you do it that way, and then they line up perfectly in Photoshop. You don't have to go find them and align them and stuff like that. So yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know why this color calibration isn't working on this file, but it's not. But anyway, these are my star subs, like my 5-second stars, 300 subs of them. You can still see Hubble's variable nebula in here somewhere.
Yeah, the color looks
saw it a
good.
minute ago.
The color in those look good.
It's going to be over here. It's not rotated, which is why I'm having a hard time finding Hubble's variable. Oh, there it is, right there. Still shows up. So yeah, I would extract these stars with StarNet 256 to save time.
Would you only keep those stars? Would you get rid of your long?
Probably.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've actually never thought about doing that. That's a great idea.
Yeah. So, this isn't. I did it on an unstretched file, which you can do.
Oh yeah.
I haven't had good experiences.
Maybe that's why the color calibration, or I don't
no,
know.
I always do color calibration on unstretched data.
Okay.
But I think you can do it either way. That's just personal preference. But I'll go ahead and stretch this for fun. Am I doing this the right way? No, I just got it backwards once again.
Yeah, stretch. You got it. Did you use the screen transfer function? Did you pull that over into the? I never saw you pull that over into the histogram.
Okay, cropped it. I've got the right. I see what you're saying. Linked stretch. I'll do an unlinked stretch just to save some time. Okay, and then StarNet.
Yeah.
Isn't that awesome? Check this out. GPU shrinking away, and it's done.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So there's the star layer, and then the actual stars. There's some chromatic aberration. I'll remove that in Photoshop. But
is that the lens? Is that the
yeah,
optic?
It is. Yeah. But you can see much fewer stars now than the other. Did I keep that star layer? I think I might have trashed it. Yeah.
Because of the what did we just say? What were we looking at in the stars? What did you say it was in there?
Chromatic aberration.
Thank you. Chromatic aberration.
Yeah.
My mind just went blank. So, speaking on that, using that as the leading into this subject. I was talking to someone last night, and I was telling them it's funny because, when I started out, I bought a telescope mount combo, and the telescope was really good. The mount was not that great, and so the way I went after astrophotography is I always replaced my weakest link. So the first thing I did was I got rid of that mount and got a new mount. Right, got a good mount, and then at that point, my camera became my weakest link. Right. So then I got a new camera, and then at that point, my filter was my weakest link. And I got a new filter, and then once I got a new filter, my camera was the weakest link again. So I went back and got a better
full circle.
I went back and got another camera, and in fact, I got one that I didn't want. I got one because the one I wanted wasn't out yet. So I got two different cameras. But in order, and finally ended up with the 2600 MC and the 2600 mono. But I got that. So now I've got the telescope. I got this telescope, got the mount. I've got good camera. I've got good filters. Well, then now that I've been doing this, I feel like my telescope, which started out as the best thing, is the weakest link now. So now I am going after a new telescope. I'm looking for a new telescope, and I'm not replacing my old telescope because the one that I'm talking about is still a good telescope, but it's a reflector instead. I really want, I've really become a fan of refractors. And so I want a longer focal length refractor. And I've been going through so much reading and studying because of the aberration, the chromatic aberration and stuff like that are in lenses that I wasn't even paying attention to. And so now I've started paying attention to it, and the reason I'm talking about this is because now I'm really looking for, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to really find what I want or not, but if I can get one that I really feel like that the chromatic aberration and everything is as good as you can get, it goes back to what we were talking about needing to do less processing.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so that's what I'm really working on right now is, I want my Especially, I want my instruments completely out of the way for processing. Like, I don't want to. I don't want to have to, eggs. We deal with tilt and stuff with some of our telescopes, and I don't want that in there, and I don't want to have to go in there and work on that stuff. I want to be able to take the image and know when I get in and start working on that image that I don't have to worry about any of that. All I'm doing now is the creative process, right? All the post-processing for error correction is out of the picture, right? So anyway, but that's what I'm really working on, dude, and that is fantastic right there.
Really cool.
Dude, that is, I mean, and the browns in there are now it's like, now you're seeing that, what do we call that? The nebulosity that is not the actual nebulosity we're looking at, but just the nebulosity of space itself.
Right. Like I mean, it's either dust or it might be IFN, but
yeah, stuff like that. I mean, that you start seeing all of that too. And that's just, I mean, this right here, a lot of people would clip all of that and make it really black like space, but look what's there. Look at what's actually there in the image.
I know it.
Don't clip that. Please don't clip that. Learn,
don't worry.
Right. I'm talking to other people though, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm saying don't clip that stuff, really find it, use these tools and pull it out, and then don't clip it. Actually make it part of your image,
Mm-hmm.
But anyway.
So this is what's cool to me when you start to notice, I mean, so with the stars back in, right? You get halos. Bell Extreme has halos, and I'll remove those. It's much easier to do with stars removed, of course. And there's some issues up here and some down here from where the stars were. But this is what's been blowing my mind. See that little ring right there? That looks like a classic StarNet artifact, right? But that's nebulosity. Look at this. When I put the stars,
we would have pulled that out thinking,
look,
right.
There's no halo there. That's not star
right.
removal.
That's right.
That's nebulosity in that little ring right there. That's so cool to me.
Yeah. And see, I would back those stars. I'd pull them down. And that's just me. I'd pull them down so that stuff can actually come through.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I do 5-second subs for the stars, so that I'll have very faint stars. Who's the master of that is Charles Bonfilia.
Yes. Oh yeah, dude.
He'll post his pictures on Facebook, and everybody's like,
dude,
can you post a version with stars?
And
he's like, this is the version with stars.
I'm telling you, man, I'm gonna start, every time I put something out there and want to put ASI week on there, I'm gonna make sure, I'm be like, Charles, are you posting anything this week for ASI week?
Seriously.
Because if you are, I'm gonna wait till next week. Because because I have no chance if you post at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, they won't pick the same person all the time either. I got one for my California Pleiades wide field.
Right.
And I don't know if they still do it, where they did the interview with an astrophotographer and they post up on the webpage.
I haven't seen that, but I remember that.
Yeah, they did that for mine, and then it was cool.
Yeah,
but
that was awesome.
They haven't chosen. I don't know that I would be chosen. I don't know that anybody would be chosen more than once or twice in a year.
Yeah,
but I could be totally wrong.
But I get that. I totally get that. Some of that is that they want to spread that around, right?
Exactly.
But when you see Charles put those images in there, I mean, how do you not? He just dropped. He just did one. It's this week, wasn't it? Didn't he just put one out this week?
I think so.
Is just incredible.
I'm going to pull up his AstroVin page. That's worth looking at real quick.
Let's see.
He did. Let's see. Charles.
Yeah, he did this. Yeah. He put this out 6 days ago.
Let's go to his user page.
From the Flaming Star Nebula.
Oh yeah.
It's oh dude, it's just incredible, gorgeous. Yeah, right there.
Incredible.
And I don't think our stream is doing it justice either.
Oh, I'm sure it's not.
You really need to go to his Astro bin and look at that.
Yeah, man. I mean, his Lagoon Nebula. I've never thought that the Lagoon Nebula was super amazing until I saw his.
Right. And you can see the layers, right, within the Lagoon Nebula. Like you can pick them out. Like you've always seen them, but they've kind of been like flat, right?
Yeah.
But now you're seeing depth with those layers.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah. The shadows caused by those bright stars there, that stellar nursery in the center, the shadows that it's casting against those different layers, and you don't get that in a lot of Lagoon Nebula photos that people put out there.
No.
And he really did that justice, man. I mean, I don't know if he won an APOD for that, but that needs to be an APOD.
Yeah.
And I don't know how those guys pick APODs, but I want to have a chat with them.
Seriously.
Not really, but I mean, still, I'm anyway, I don't know. Maybe they're trying to spread it around more too. Yeah, see, he put a cone out right when I put a cone out. I was like, come on.
Oh, he did? This one was December 14th. Yours was after that, wasn't it?
It was, well, no, mine was, kind of. Mine was imaged at, I mean, it's one of those that you're going to image it at that time because that's when it's up.
Exactly.
Right? It's going to show up. So, but I'm like, he put that out there, and I had this data, and I was like, I don't even want to put mine up. I don't want to even post it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think this is one of my favorites of his, the Tulip Nebula. So many people take a picture of this, and people even do wide field here.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there's so much in here.
Mm-hmm.
These little filaments, these little it's just so amazing.
Right.
All of this little detail.
Yeah, a lot of people wouldn't, and through their whatever they're using to process, they wouldn't even know it's there. They're getting rid of it because they don't even know that it's there to pull out, right? Mm-hmm. With the way that they're processing it. So, yeah. And that's what somebody told me. Another guy told me yesterday. He goes, "Man, you do really good images. You're already good." And I'm like, "No, what I've done is I've learned the application, right? I've learned PixInsight and and like Photoshop or Topaz Labs or whatever. I've kind of learned those, and I'm not saying I'm great at them, but I have learned how to use them, their basic functions.
Yeah.
And if you took that and learned their basic functions and did that, yours would be at least equal to mine. So now that I've learned that, and that is, I really feel like that's something that a lot of the people that we're seeing put stuff out there yet, they just don't know that much yet. And if they can just get the basics down of some of these amazing tools like PixInsight and APP and stuff like that, then they would be there too. That's where they would be. They'd be able to put a picture up that looked just like that. Now that I know that, I want to go further with it and start doing stuff like Charles, right? Because he's going beyond that, and like this right here. I mean, just that. I
just did some curves on it.
Did you?
A little bit.
Yeah.
You can see that's before curves, and then after.
But I don't. And what I'm saying is, I don't think people realize that if they'll get the basics down of these applications, their images are going to be amazing immediately. I mean, look at what we're photographing. They're already amazing. We don't have to do anything artistic to make them amazing. It's already just amazing targets that we're photographing on their own, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's so it's all the other stuff that we do to it can enhance that. But if you'll just learn the basics of these tools, then you'll be doing that just by using the basics of those tools.
Yeah.
So anyway,
No doubt about it. Third Rock was asking that star on the bottom left of my image if that was micro lensing or incorrect back focus. It is. It's just the L Extreme filter given a halo.
Yeah.
That's So here's my current conundrum. I want to get a new filter for my 2600 MC.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got some options now, right? And Antlia has their new, they call it the golden filter, the
right.
ASP or APS or whatever it's called. No halos, passed the halo test. It looks awesome, but it's weak. You mean like what star?
Yeah, what stars are they?
Oh, Almatac and
oh, really? Okay.
I forget. Yeah, I think Sean Visible Dark did a review of it, and I think Quiv did a review of it, and I think Nico nebulaphotos.com did a review of it also.
Okay.
And at least one of them, if not all of them, hit up Almatac, and there was no halo. It looked awesome.
Yeah.
But the problem with it is it's weak in O3 transmission. HA is like 95%, and then O3 is at like 80% or something like that.
Yes, I remember.
And you see it in the images.
Right.
The O3 is just weak. And this is not like a mono camera where you can just pile on more O3 if your O3 filter is weak. Your colors are matched. They're set because you're using a one-shot color camera. So that's my problem with the Antlia one, is it's a weak in the O3. And now Sean from Visible Dark has an advanced pre-production copy of the L Ultimate, the new Optolong, which is, I believe, 3 nanometers on both O3 and HA, but it has halos, just like the L Extreme does. Now he says that they said it's pre-production copy. They're still working on it. So at this point, I'm just waiting for them to release the final version of the L Ultimate, and if it doesn't have any halos and has good, at least equal representation of HA and O3, then that's what I'm going to go with.
So, why not the Triad Ultra?
I don't know. I mean, price at this point.
Yeah, but
especially if, I would like to go mono at some point in the near future. So dropping a lot of money on filter, I'm hesitant to.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm going to be dropping 3 times that much on, narrowband filters.
You only get one life though, man.
That's true.
It's like if you know that what I was saying a while ago about finding the weakest link, right? Mm-hmm. It seems like right now you've got to your weakest link, and it's your filter. Right?
Yeah. I mean, that's debatable though, because the halos, for some people, halos are the end of the world because they can be really difficult to remove. I'm going to show you real quick. Let me load up Photoshop with that starless image. I'll show you how I remove halos. And I think it's super easy. There's so many different ways, right? Mm-hmm. You can use the paintbrush tool. You can use clone stamp. The heal tool. You can use the clone stamp tool. I don't think I have I think I do actually have a starless version of this saved. And test file. This is my scratch folder. I've been imaging this thing for 29 nights, and I do a lot of different stacks as I'm going to see the progress. All right, this was 22 nights in. Ready for. I'll just save this. This will be easier. Just save this one.
Hey, Third Rock was wanting to know why what caused the that halo or whatever to be off center.
Because it's towards the edge of the frame, so the light's coming in. The halos usually, if the star was in the center, then the halo would be
more centered.
perfectly round around the star. Yeah, but as you get closer to the edge, the halos move towards towards the edge also. All right, I'm just gonna save this in this folder, TIFF. I'll call it Wade test halo.
That's gonna be on Instagram tomorrow.
What is?
That looks so good in your image here.
Oh man, I'm not done.
I know, but
I spend so much time processing photos. This is gonna look a lot different. Like I'll bring in the O3 layer and actually make the O3 blue instead of white like it is, and I haven't done any noise reduction or any sharpening or
When you post the final image on Instagram, do the starless as the second image.
I'm gonna have to. The starless on this one just looks so good.
It does.
Here we go. All right, open up. So here in Photoshop, say I wanted to remove this halo. I'll just select around it. Edit, content aware fill. Look at that. Just hit apply and OK, and then there you go. So, give me my history. I usually, something's jacked up with my my layout here. I usually have the history right here, but anyway, I just undo and redo. No, I can't. Window, history. So there's the original, and then halo removed. Can do the other one right here.
Now,
edit, content aware fill.
But you even pulled the white out of that, which is I don't know. Did you want to do that on that first one?
What do you mean?
The white center. That's technically the star.
Yeah, because it'll show up.
That star will be there.
Yeah, it'll be in
the star net.
It's that star because this one isn't rotated.
Right.
But it'll still be here. Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be right there. That one. So there are other ways to do it.
Yeah.
But like for a halo that's like on its own without nebulosity around it, I mean, especially the second one that I did, like it's just, it's great.
And so do that one more time. What did you so you selected the area around it?
Yeah, I just get the lasso tool and select the part that's like lit up that shouldn't be. Right. Now this, of course, this isn't scientifically accurate, but it doesn't matter.
Right.
I'm not doing science.
Then you go to edit.
And so edit and then content aware fill. And you can get a preview of what it's doing here, and you can change some stuff. Color adaptation, but it doesn't always look better. That looks worse.
Right.
There you go. We'll leave it at default. That actually looks great. Rotation adaptation, which I'm not sure what it does, but that versus that looks a little more uniform and normal. And then, you just hit apply and OK. And it does it. And now that actually doesn't look great. You can still see kind of a ring around it. But content aware fill, leave it at default. I mean, it's gone. It looks great to me.
Yeah. No, it does.
These are actually nebulas up here. So not stars.
Right.
And we already talked about how that's not a halo. So like this would be more tricky, right? Because this stuff, if we go back and look at the...
Yeah, you don't want to get rid of that stuff in the center.
Right. Oh, here it is. Couldn't find my file. If we bring the stars back, you can see that's a halo, right?
Right.
Where'd it go? There it is. You can see the halo there, around there. So it's still there, right? So I'm not, it would take me a long time to do this, but for this, you can still tell where the nebulosity is and where the halo is. So for this, I would probably use something like the rubber stamp tool and pick sections that are close to it and not do like 100% opacity.
Can you do that lasso tool around the whole thing and then do like a shift invert or lasso, like a shift lasso within around the actual nebulosity that you can see, and kind of remove that out? Do you know what I mean? So kind of like remove out a part of your selection. I don't know if it would let you do that. Like if you did try to do lasso again with on the inside, like do a shift. You know, like if you were going to add another area.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm not exactly sure what you mean.
If you had that selected, so select that tool with the lasso tool, go around it and select it again, and then hold down Shift and just try to select that, draw around that nebulosity in the center. What does it do?
Like this?
Yeah, is
that what you mean?
Yeah, I'm watching you from the stream, so I'm a little bit behind you.
It didn't do anything because I've already have that selected.
Yeah, so that's what I was wondering, if it was a way to, if you did that, if it would unselect everything inside there and only leave the. But anyway, never mind.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could get super creative with this and like make a new layer out of just that selection, which I just did here.
Right.
And then do like select color range and then just try to select that part. Oh, that didn't work like I expected it to. I don't. Yeah, it's still there. Oh, I know what happened. Select color range. Current. No, that's right. Current layer. I don't know what's going on. I was going to try to just select that color and then do well, let's try it this way. Because you can do localized so that it won't select a ton. See what I did there?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just selecting in that. Take the range down.
Right.
Take the range all the way up. It'll go through the whole image. But you take it way down and it'll just get that local area. Let's try it. See what that looks like. So that's supposed to have selected the color that we want to remove.
Mm-hmm.
Now I might feather this selection a little bit so it's not so sharp, you know. Yeah, and then maybe try the content aware fill on that. Oh man. Would you look at that? Let's see before and after.
That's
pretty
good,
awesome,
man.
Yeah. I mean, I'm into that.
It's not perfect, right? But it is.
No.
It's definitely better than what it was, right?
Oh yeah.
And you could even your content aware settings, you could probably play with that some more.
I'm sure.
You know, but anyway.
Yeah. But I mean, that looks.
Yeah.
It looks great. I'm probably I'm going to use that technique, no doubt. You can see up here where there's some noise where like it wasn't the full stack there, but there also you see there's not like a perfect line, because multi-band blending and Astro Pixel Processor evens that out a little bit.
Yeah.
But I didn't crop this properly because I still got that noise up there. But I also haven't done any noise reduction on it. I got to show you what blows my mind about this computer. If I pull up, like, why wouldn't it let me? I must have something selected. Why can't I select any filters? Oh, because I don't have a layer selected. Topaz denoise on my 2014 MacBook Pro took forever. Just to do the preview. Like, I would change a setting here. You see the progress bar down here, right? I would change a setting, and now it's already updated. Like immediately. But on my old MacBook Pro, I would be waiting for like 20, 25 seconds just to update the preview. And let's see. Just tweak it a little bit.
Hey, do you ever use noise reduction in the Camera Raw?
It's one of my favorites.
Okay.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I think I might like that more than denoise. But sometimes denoise works better on certain things. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, this is too strong, and I wouldn't use this much. But I want to show you how fast it applies.
Right.
Because when I would apply this on my MacBook Pro, it would take, I don't know, 5 minutes to do the whole image, and now it's done.
Yeah.
It's just insane. I do love Camera Raw, though. I love it. I love doing I love it for noise reduction. Absolutely love it. There's a little bit of color noise in there. There's not a ton of noise in this picture.
No, there's not, man. That's because of your
billion subs.
Yeah, your signal to noise ratio is just ridiculous for this.
I'm going to show you a little trick that I really like that I've been doing lately. So if you do the select color range, and then you can select reds, and then you have just the red layer, and then this select and mask tool is just the best because it lets you make a mask out of your selection, and you can feather it so that it's not so sharp. So now I've got and then I'll make a new layer out of this, Control J. So I've got that layer there, ditch this one because that's an old one. And then you can do slight tweaks to that, like Camera Raw. I can go in Camera Raw and crank up like the clarity, for example. We'll just do 50 and see what it looks like. So now you can see before that's pretty slight, but it's pretty good. Let me try that. It's such a light selection that I don't feel terrible cranking this clarity up to 100. See what it does. See there? Before and after.
Right. Oh yeah, definitely.
And it only affects the red.
Yeah.
So it's not changing your background. It's not changing any noise.
It gave more detail in there. Yeah.
And you can do that same thing with that color selection tool. You can select, say, just the midtones. You see what you get there, and you can tweak these.
Right.
Or you can select just the highlights. If you want to do like sharpening on just the highlights. And I very often use the sampled colors. I want to just pull out or select a specific color, or like if I just wanted to select the 03 over here, you can get that.
Yeah, that's
selected.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then select and mask and feather it a little bit so that I can't zoom. That's probably enough. Yeah, so then you can just make a new layer out of that, tweak it however you want to. Like I did clarity on the HA, but I could also do it on the O3. It's a bit stronger of a selection, so I'm not going to go as hard. But yeah, there you go. See that? O3 is a little sharper now. A little punchier.
Yep.
It's pretty cool.
Yes,
just the more you do it, you just get all these little tips and tricks and things you start doing. Pretty awesome.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, it is.
Oh man, it's 11 o'clock.
It is 11 o'clock. We've been on for 3 hours now. So.
Wow. Time flies.
Yep. Hey, I appreciate you very much for going through this with us. So,
man, honestly, I'm just so happy to be able to share it because I keep telling everybody how amazing that light pollution tool is.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you got to try it. You got to try it. But also, it's like, it's not the easiest thing to figure out. It's much easier if I can just show it to you.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm glad that I was able to show it to you. I'm sure you're going to love it. I hope you do.
Yeah, definitely. I've already got some things that I want to run back through it now.
Nice.
So,
I bet.
I'll be posting something again, but now it'll have gone through. I'll have to go through my Astro bin and add another add an updated version.
Oh yeah, a revision.
Yeah, a revision.
You didn't post your latest picture on here, did you?
No, I only post like I don't post a whole lot on here. I only post things that I really like. And so most of it shows up on Instagram or Facebook. But Astroband, I don't do it unless I really like it. So
this is the image that I saw of yours that I was like, yeah, you need to try out Astro Pixel Processor light pollution removal.
Yeah.
Because this was like, this down here is now no longer an issue.
Right.
This is a problem of the past.
Yeah, I'll definitely this is definitely one of those that, and I'm pretty sure that I to get to this point, I'm pretty sure I lost nebulosity getting to that point.
It's possible, yeah.
So, I'm definitely going to have to go back through that.
Yeah.
With it. So.
Also, just I got to say this because AstroJab mentioned the Easy processing suite. This Easy denoise is amazing.
Okay.
You run it on linear data. So I'm not going to run it now. And depending on your computer, it can take forever to run. It can be one of the longest processes that you do. But I basically leave everything at default. And then just hit run Easy denoise. I think I turned this down a little bit. I think it defaults at like, I don't know, I forget. We'll find out. Oh, no, I didn't. It was the edge protection multiplier. I think I turned that down a little bit because I forget I said anything. You can use it in default settings.
Okay.
And it's phenomenal. You just hit run and then it goes through each of your channels and does I forget how many iterations and masking of the image. Like it masks it and then does a lot of iterations of noise reduction, and it is phenomenal.
Okay.
I didn't run it on this because it takes forever, and I was just showing,
right,
some brief stuff. But if you have enough data, I sometimes won't run it anyway if there's enough data and not a lot of noise. Like this image is already pretty clean, but. Anyway, yeah, I know it's late. I'm rambling now.
No, it's all been good, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So
it's my pleasure.
Let's see. Since we're on, you know what? We're gonna raid. What's up?
I'm guessing Dustin isn't streaming anymore since he joined in on ours. They're gone. They're gone. Yeah.
So I'm gonna raid a 3D printer
Nice.
deal. So, because I'm into that now. So,
Yeah.
we'll do that. And anyway, hey man, thanks. A whole lot for doing this with us.
Absolutely. It's
So,
my pleasure.
Yeah. So,
Thanks
all
for
right,
having me.
everyone, thanks for watching. And, we'll try to do this, something next week also. So, you have a good rest of the week, good weekend. And hopefully you can get out and do some imaging and clear skies and all that. So we will see y'all next time.